It's supposed to be harmless. 3 hours of spectacle stitched together with slow-motion replays, roaring crowds, and the comfort of familiar colors. It's supposed to be the place you go to forget the world. But peel back the gloss, and a harder story sits underneath the confetti. The NFL is entertainment, yes, but entertainment with an agenda, a machine that knows how to dazzle a nation even as uncomfortable questions pile up just out of frame. And this week, those questions came roaring back when Tom Brady's comments about black quarterbacks reignited an old fire the league has never quite snuffed out. Brady didn't use a bullhorn. He didn't have to. When the most decorated quarterback in league history says modern celebrations are self-promotional, when he contrasts his own habit of hugging linemen with the swagger of the new generation, the message lands with the weight of a trophy case. To some, it sounded like an old-school captain preaching team over self. To others, it felt like a coded rebuke of the very players who have made the sport feel alive again. Men whose style and joy are inseparable from their skill, men whose cultural footprint doesn't end at the sideline. And once those remarks hit the bloodstream, the conversation stopped being just about dances in the end zone. It became about patterns. It became about who is allowed to be expressive, who gets labeled a leader, and who gets told to tone it down. It became about ownership, optics, and an institution that always seems to offer progress with one hand and pull it back with the other. That pressure to smile and march forward is why some players go out of their way to declare the NFL the least racist institution in the country. Not because they believe it in their bones, but because they know how fast a narrative can turn, and how quickly a career can tilt with it. Everyone wants to make the league. Everyone grows up dreaming beyond the draft cap to the moment you step under the lights and realize your childhood wish came true. The dream is so loud it can drown out everything else, but even dreams can be bent. Look at how fast the story turned on a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders. Before the draft cycle began to swirl, he was talked about as a top pick, maybe first, or second overall if things broke right. Then came the drip of narrative. Too flashy, too brand forward, too much personality for the most mic'd up position in sports. Where some people saw confidence, others saw a threat to the status quo. Where some saw marketing savvy, others saw a distraction. The slide to the 5th round didn't just cost money, it cost momentum, dignity, and the presumption of benefit of the doubt. You don't need a smoking gun to understand how bias travels. You only need to watch how quickly certain players are recast when they don't fit the mold. Cam Ward knows the script. He said it plainly. Stories get spun, reputations get massaged into something unrecognizable, and suddenly you're defending yourself against a caricature. The details change, the mechanism doesn't. When black quarterbacks celebrate, they're making it about themselves. When their white counterparts pound chests and bellow on the sideline, it's framed as fire and edge. A stereotype is just a story with the volume turned up, and the league has been playing that soundtrack for a long time. Which brings us back to Brady and the blast radius of his words. On the surface, his point was about team. He said he sought his linemen because everyone deserved to feel part of the play. That's noble. That's how the game should be. But watch how the narrative shifts once the frame tightens around black quarterbacks. Suddenly, swagger becomes selfishness. Branding becomes sin. Individuality becomes a problem to be solved rather than a feature to be celebrated. And the most galling part isn't that a legend has a preference. It's that those preferences echo a power structure that has told black players for generations to be grateful, be quiet, and be less. The league has already tried to choreograph its way out of this problem. It has printed values in the end zones. It has funded programs, committees, and campaigns. It has promised to listen. Yet in the moments that would cost something, like staring down political pressure or letting a star take a knee, the NFL has too often chosen comfort over conviction. When the bold lettering disappears at the exact moment the world is watching, it doesn't matter how many times the commissioner says the right thing. Fans aren't dumb, players aren't blind. You can't market your way past what you refuse to face. So where does it go from here? The optimist will tell you the league is changing, and there are signs that's true. The end zone dances are back. Social justice messages, however imperfectly handled, exist at all. Young quarterbacks arrive with their own audiences and are unapologetic about both. The game looks more like the culture that surrounds it than it did a decade ago. And fans, especially younger ones, aren't shy about what they want. They want the story and the soundtrack. They want authenticity. They want the emotion that lets you feel the game in your chest. But optimism without accountability is just hope dressed up as PR. Until the hiring numbers move in ways that match the league's rhetoric, until the brightest lights are used to illuminate the truth instead of muting it, until black players can be fully themselves without having their humanity litigated by talking heads, this tension will keep snapping back. The league can either embrace the future, its players are already building, or it can keep repainting the same slogans and wondering why no one believes them. Maybe that's the truest irony of all. The NFL wants to be everything at once. The patriotic pageant and the culture engine, the corporate colossus and the weekly block party. It wants the cool without the cost. It wants the swagger without the politics that come with it. But you can't celebrate the product while disciplining the people who make it sing. You can't preach unity while tisking the exact forms of expression that make the sport feel shared. The players are the league. Their joy is the brand. Their stories are the ratings. And if you try to flatten them into something safer, you don't just insult them, you make the game smaller. So here we are again, staring at a league that says the right words and flinches at the right times, a legend whose preferences accidentally pulled the mask off an old bias, and a new generation of quarterbacks refusing to apologize for being exactly who they are. The truth is, the NFL can't market its way out of this moment. It can only live its way out by hiring equitably, by protecting its most visible stars with the same energy it uses to profit from them, by letting the end zone be a stage where culture isn't just allowed, but honored. What do you think? Has the league earned the benefit of the doubt, or is it still rehearsing the same old lines? Should players keep carrying the burden of making the NFL better, or is it on owners and executives to finally match the courage of the people on the field? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And while we debate, don't forget who's actually doing the work. The athletes whose bodies, voices, and joy keep the whole thing alive. Stand with them, listen to them, and celebrate them when they score however they choose. They're the reason you watch. They're the reason the lights come on.